right, welcome back, everybody. We are on the DELO again, and I am your host, the DELO, of course. And today I have I'm gonna call you my new friend. Is that okay?
That sounds good, man.
We've been working together for a little bit, and I've really enjoyed that, and I appreciate that very much. But Anthony, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun, I think, here.
Taking some time out of your Friday to come talk to the DELO and, give my audience a little perspective on some entrepreneurship, some family stuff, and also getting to know you a little bit personally. Because I did some research on you, and we have a lot of similarities, which I'm excited to talk about. So
yeah. Nice. And the you don't even know my big taste of music is just right in line with yours, man. 80s.
Oh, this
big
is
stuff
great.
All the way.
We could probably just nerd out a half an hour on that.
Yeah.
So before we get down too far that rabbit hole, let's talk a little bit about just kind of your beginnings. So from Chicago.
Yeah, my parents, 1974, rolled on out of Chicago, moved up to Fountain Hills, and opened the pizzeria back then. So that was the premise of them leaving the cold winter. So I wasn't even here yet. So I came around in 75.
Okay. Yeah, so 74, that's the year I was born, and that's why I remember the beginning of Spinatos, which is, what a great year, right, for all of us.
Hey, sounds like it.
Yeah. Where were you born out here?
We lived in Fountain Hills, but I think it was in Mesa. There was nothing up there back then. So
yeah, the
Mesa.
beeline all the way to the...
Yeah. Shea Boulevard was still dirt.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about that. Do you go back to Fountain Hills at all?
Yeah. So when my wife and I first got married in 2005, we bought a condo up there for about 5 years, and we kept it for a little while. But we just wanted to kind of quiet down, get out of Old Town and stuff like that. And my parents are still up there, so we get up there, a few times a year for sure. And it's a great little place.
They're not in the same house, are they?
No, they did move once, but they've been in that house since 2001, so they've been there a while.
And how many siblings do you have?
I have an older sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're both in the business?
Yeah, it's her name's Nicole. She's famously known as Nicole's new favorite on the menu.
Yeah.
And she has her cookies on the menu as well, so she's got some serious followers as a result of that.
That's amazing. She's kind of made her own niche out of the, out of the business itself.
Just as long as she doesn't ask for some royalties as a result of that, right?
Well, whether she gets it or not is another thing, right?
Right.
So one of the first similarities that we have is, working with a parent or parents. And, tell me a little bit about the relationship with you and your dad and how that developed over the years.
Yeah. Well, our relationship is, even though we're in business, I know some family businesses and some consultants or mentors have said, you need to try and, sometimes they say call your dad by his first name and have him, but it's still dad and I'm still son, right? And we always say, we're a family running a business like a family. it's just all we know.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect. We have still that father-son relationship, and we've had to learn, both of us, I was going to say more myself, but no, we've had to learn how to, I think, work in a way that, he's had to learn how to let go.
Yeah.
Right. As I've grown up and in the business, and I've had to learn how to undo or change some of the things that he did, and he did so well at the time. So there's a difficult dynamic working with family, as you know, because you're going to have Thanksgiving dinner together, you're going to celebrate your birthdays together, and so you're always trying to figure out how to master the relationship where it doesn't get muddy and it doesn't change what it's like to be, outside of the business together. So I think early on I had a lot more trouble, coming to him with things in a way that respected what he had already done, because I realized, oh my gosh, we need to do so many things differently.
Yeah.
And I approached it almost like it was wrong. Like, why are we doing it rather than, hey, it's time to evolve, So that was probably the challenge for a good decade until I think I matured and I learned how to approach things with my father that wouldn't rub him the wrong way, because this is his baby, right? He's the
Right.
founder, you know.
Right.
So I think I did a bad job early on with that. I don't know if you can relate, you know.
No, I can relate, and I love what you just said. I mean, if people really dial in and listen to it and acknowledge it, I think anybody that has a parent that's in the business that had started the business and then you come into it, and through this generational gap and through all these technologies and all these things that happen, even in the restaurant business with new equipment, new ways to, I mean, I would assume for you guys to new ways to possibly like just make food, you know, that's more productive and profitable and, you know, and stuff like that. So it's all these things where, you know, I can tell you when my dad first started, he was on microfiche.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, and basically people, if you don't know, if you're too young, like a microfiche is literally a microscope looking on files. And that's how they looked up insurance files and people's names and what coverage they had. Yeah. And now to even get my dad to text me back is like, you know, it's miraculous. It's like, oh, wow. You know, for whatever reason, I don't know if your dad is in this position or not, but I feel that my dad and a lot of people in that generation, his friends, love Facebook.
He doesn't. He's a little bit above that. He doesn't even get into technology in that depth. He knows what it is. Yeah. But he stays away from it. I mean, and he always says, "Gosh, if I had to run the business the way you have to run it, you know, he's like, I wish we could just go back to the way it was. Yeah. It was simple, you know." And
does part of you kind of wish that you lived in those moments? you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah, with all the craziness that goes on, you're just like, oh my God, why can't this just be simple? And
yeah, because it was much simpler, you know, and better and worse. You know, you can see the pros and the cons, but everything wasn't changing so much. You know, when you flip the open sign, it was more often just the same as it was yesterday, where week to week, month to month, there's just so much stuff is happening, and you just feel like you're always moving forward. And what we're trying to do is, you know, as we evolve, right, and as you have to evolve, is, you know, we're trying to recognize, and we have what we call a playbook. It's really just what has made us successful, right? Mm-hmm. So next year we're going to be 50 years in business. So we've sat down and we've captured what it was that got us this far. And those are the things that can't change, right? That you have to, so your values and that foundational things. So, you know, we look back, we did that with my father and our family and some of our executives, and just said, you know, how the heck did we get here? And what was it? And so we've captured that, and we do communicate that in our new employee orientation, and we talk about it, you know, throughout our days and years, you know. But then there's also that other part that it's, you know, I just was reading the other day, it was, if you double your business, be prepared to change 50% of your processes and possibly lose 50% of your staff. You know, because it's change. You know, and a lot of people don't like that. So we have to realize that that's a product of growth, whether we like it or not, and we have to understand what we do need to change, and that it's part of growth, you know.
Sometimes things need a refresh, but they don't need to be overhauled completely.
Yeah.
And so you talk about employees, but how has the response been with, say, more of a youthful clientele that comes in and gets a little bit of taste of the old school, but like you guys have redesigned some of your darker places into lighter and, you know, have kind of created that ambiance. How's that been?
Well, it's definitely having the impact, you know, where, you know, this world is so visual, right? Yeah. And it's all about the experience, you know. There's a great book, The Experience Economy, I read a few years ago, and you understand that, and this is where, like, that evolution with my dad looked at it more like, well, we've always done it this way and it's worked, right? So why are we doing something different, you know? And for our perspective, we are that generation, and we are closer to the newer generation that is so visual, and you understand how colors move people and how light and everything that, you know. And so while it might not be something that's would drive a decision that my dad would make, like that's why I would go to that restaurant. Right. The reality is that's how people make their decisions, right? Is the overall experience, not just the food or the service, but cleanliness, ambiance, which are those pillars in our company. And so it took him some time as it would. I mean, for doing kind of the same thing for say 30 or 35 years and being successful, you can't really argue with that, right? But it took him some time to understand that's really where we are today, and that's how people think. And so it's once we did the Tempe restaurant and we moved it from the little place that we had in the 80s, and we just changed the feel and the energy. And he didn't really, going into it, he wasn't like rooting for it. He wasn't rooting against it. He was concerned that some of the guests that have been coming for all these years would all of a sudden show up and go, "What is this?" And then it was more like once the feedback started to come in and he would walk the floor, he does such a great job of being out there. And he started to hear from, people in their upper 50s, 60s, or 70s that this place is beautiful. It's so airy. We love it. That was that affirmation, because he just wasn't sure, right? And how people would take it. And then, then you had a younger demographic starting to show up. And that's what we're really trying to do is have that generational impact where, you came in 20 years ago. Now I get to see your kid. You're bringing your kids in. And that's the essence of what we do at Spinatos. It's just that the relationships.
It's relationships, and also you talk about environment, and a large part of environment, frequently going to your places is your employment, your employees, and when you sit down at a Spinatos and you feel the graces of an employee coming, it's some of the most welcoming that there is, and so that's just attributable to you and the way and your team, the way that you make them feel like they're family. You know what I'm saying? And then they make the guests feel like family.
And, that goes back to, right, we were talking about when we first started, and at one point it was just my grandparents, my mom and dad, my sister and I, and my cousin, one restaurant, right? And so if you were our first employee, the only thing we knew how to do is be a family. So you became part of the family. And so that's really kind of cascaded, and it's just been a part of everything we do. And my dad would the greatest lesson, the master's degree I have in business is in a couple lines. I would be making pizzas at the old Tempe store, and right behind me is where he used to ring our guests up, and the oven was right there. And he'd have me turn around, and I'd tell this story to our new team members. I called Uncle Sal. Uncle Sal was a stranger at one point in our life, became a guest, and he would say something like, "Hey, turn around and say hello to Uncle Sal." "Hey, Uncle Sal, how you doing?" I'm 12, 13 years old making pizzas. "Hey, son, you know how many shoes, Uncle Sal has bought you over the years?" He'd say stuff like that, and I'd look at my dad like, what are you talking about? And then he'd get me to give him that what? And he said, well, all these pizzas, he comes in every Saturday night, gets his medium sausage and mushroom pizza. Where do you think your shoes come from? Right? And so he showed me right then and there, and think about the value that what he was saying to the guest, is that you're not a transaction, you're not a customer. First of all, we're treating you like a guest in our home. That's all we know how to do, right? But you are the reason I see you as you provide for my family, right? You put a roof over our head, shoes, clothes. And so learning that, right, and learning that from such a young age, that's where we look at is if that's what our guests are, and that's how we see our guests, is they provide for our livelihoods, right? That, we better darn make sure that we're providing for them. And the guest experience is never going to exceed the employee experience. So in order to make sure that our guests feel valued, genuinely valued and cared for, we have to care for our employees in a manner unlike I think any other business around, especially in our industry. Is it's family, it's quality of life, it's putting them before us, right? And making sure that they have a place to feel safe, a place to grow, a place to succeed, get to that next level from high school to college, or build a career. And so if we take good care, great care of our team, then that cascades down, and you feel that when you walk in the door, and that's really all we do.
It's so beautifully spoken. Wow. Look, do you think this is a dying art? I mean, the aspect of things not being so transactional. I'm sure you get hit up with it all the time, where there's salespeople coming in like, hey, I got the best new this and that, and there's no development of a relationship.
Yeah, it's such a big, I know exactly what you're saying is I think people want that.
Yeah.
They just go about it all wrong, right? The hard way, right, is exactly that, is the relationship, right? And so being a family that runs a business like a family that creates so much complexity, right? There's our HR department we have the most people in our HR department and our training department because we are in the people business, not the pizza business, right? And so it adds a lot of overhead. It's harder. We walk through life with our team, our employees, rather than just saying, oh, you're underperforming, well, adios, right? It adds more complexity. It's a longer, more difficult way to run a business, but in the end, it's the best way. You get the best outcome. And I think, we've become such an impatient world, right? And everybody wants to be the best. It's like, you can dream big, you can think big, but it's everything that happens in between that, is what they don't want to do, is what I feel like. Everyone wants shortcuts, and they want the faster, quicker way to get and drive the results. Yeah. When, I've tried all of those, right? I think we've all tried, whether it's a fad diet or whatever. The right way is always the hardest way. Yes. Nothing easy. You can't. There is nothing easy that's going to provide.
Yeah. There's no easy way. And you bring up a good point. It's kind of like a diet. When somebody wants to get in shape and they want to put their body, they want to make a difference. It doesn't just happen overnight. No. You have to eat right for an extended period of time. You have to move your body. You have to mentally put yourself in a space. You have to not stress out so much. And it's the same thing with running a business. Yeah. A lot of people, even with business or body, stress is a huge just deterrent of getting you to prime goal.
Yeah. It's, you said it well, it's the little things over a long period of time that gets us to where we want to go. Yeah. And that's where the friction or the tension is right. Everything that's good and right takes a long time. It's a good long-term outcome, right? And I think what book did I hear that in? I think it was Atomic Habits, James Clear, where he was talking about and then there's this friction where, it's hard. People don't want to do those things because there's no immediate payoff. But most of the things that aren't good for us give us an immediate this is great, Yeah. And so, I think that's what we're founded on values, right? It's the values and the principles that guide our decision making, because we all get tired. We're all fallen and flawed. I can get, worn out, angry. Somebody can do something that makes me mad. But if we have a set of values and principles, they guide all of our decision making. I don't make my decisions when I'm emotional or tired or upset. I just know that this is the right decision to make. Yeah. And it's always the hard one, right? And it's always the longer outcome, good return on it. But again, it's what drives results. And you look at that in everything, let's just call Parmesan Reggiano, a 6-month parm versus a 24-month, total different cheese, right? Yeah. You look at wine, it's everything with age, right? And so nothing good can come from anything quick. I think I shouldn't say nothing, but it is a dying art, and I know everyone yearns for it. We all ache for those outcomes and those results. It's just, we all just got to take a step back at some point and realize we just got to go about things differently and get back to the relationships. I think I was reading something, success, 85% of our success comes from our relationships and 15% comes from knowledge.
100%.
But we're so knowledge driven, right? Yeah. We're listening to books on Audible. Yeah. We're all tuned into podcasts, right? We're all trying to learn something, and really it's all right there in front of us. It's the person, you and I sitting across from the table, building a relationship, and it's that has to do with our success rather than what we know,
It really does. And when you look at an establishment, an entity, a living entity that's been around since '74, and you look at how many restaurants you have right now, And, you know, you look at, let's just say the big money dogs that would look at it and be like, why aren't there 30 of them? You know why there's not 30 of them, because you've created something that nobody else has created, you know?
Yeah.
In that essence.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where I believe knowing why you do something or the purpose of what you're doing is so critical. We're approached often enough to be able to talk about this on a podcast where, you know, we have those companies that look at what we're doing,
right,
get a hold of me and say, hey, we would like to do this with you. We can do this. You could be at, you know, we do 50 stores in X amount of years. You would get a cash out of here, and you know, and I say you're talking to the wrong person,
yeah,
right? You know, and no, it's not going to change. We, you know, and I'm like, hold on a second.
The minute they hand you a check, it changes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and so I look at all the people who have given, you know, whether they've given a year of their life or they've given 10, 15, 20 years. We have a lot of amazing team members in our organization that have given so much to our family, to the cause, to our purpose of what we're here to do. And I look at it and I'm like, I have to be responsible to them, right? And so if that was what I would, if it was about, you know, a big check, then that would drive a whole different outcome. And none of those people that have trusted my family or myself to come and give their hard-earned, you know, and spend time away from their families, they wouldn't have that job. It wouldn't be the company that they joined.
No.
And so for us, that's not an option. It won't be an option to ever say, hey, you know, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not like, you know, companies can't do what, but for what we're doing and thinking about, we're in the people business. We're a place that people come to and they build memories, right, in our restaurants. And we've had wedding parties, we've had, you know, grandma and grandpa's 50th, but we've also had funerals, right, where, so you can see how pizza is a unique thing because people gather around it, right? It's kind of habitual. It's like we go there on Fridays or, you know, and so we understand how we are kind of woven through the community and how we're part of people's lives in different ways than other restaurants where it's just, I'm there to eat. For when they come to Spinato's, it's an experience, and there's relationships. They want to see their server. They want to see some of the server. They know them, but it's everybody gets together for pizza, and so we don't ever want to lose that, because I feel like we are, as a society, losing the relationships and getting around a table and just having food together and being loud and noisy and reaching over one another and just having fun and laughing. And I feel like everything's just like, I think we all feel that it's sped up so fast that it's like, what do we need to hold on tighter to? And that's one of the reasons why we just want to grow a restaurant here, a restaurant there, so we can continue to do what we're doing the way we do it, you know. And
from what you just said, like, my perception when I go out and I see things, and you know, I insure 400 restaurants, so I go in all these places, I see what's going on, and again, nothing wrong with this, but a lot of times you'll see transactional eating.
Yes.
You know, and you talk about people getting together. It's like, I think everybody has a little bit of Italian in them, you know, to where they want to get together.
I like that,
you know, and like you said about the people and all that. But most importantly, from what I can take back from what you're saying to me, is that you have the passion, you have the love, and what you have created is everything about what you and your family and what you all want to do with life. So, albeit money's great, money comes naturally, you're taken care of, you take care of those people around you, and but like at the end of the day, and even I get bids to come in and buy this agency and this and that. It's the same thing. I look at my employees, I'm like, nah, what, you know, not doing it, you know. So like, how much money do we really need at the end of the day, and then what do we do after that? It's like
yeah, I think society does a good job of thinking that that's getting us to believe that that's what the missing thing is, right, in all of our happiness. There's always that yearning for more, but we just don't know what that more is, and I'm a person of faith, and there's one of my favorite books in the Bible is Ecclesiastes, you know, and it talks about, everything is just toil, it's meaningless, it's all for vanity. And vanity meaning like it's worthless, not the vanity we think of, but in the Greek, or Hebrew, definition of that. And it's taught me a lot, to understand that, you might be running up that hill to get there, and there might be a certain number. And I've known enough and I've listened enough to people who have gotten there, and then they realize it's not what they thought, right?
Yeah.
And that's just kind of what it is with everything. And it's really, I think, it just comes back to what you had mentioned, the relationships. It's like, you can have... there's a book called Margin, and I remember one of the best quotes in it. It says, "Whatever we own owns us." Right? So the more you have, the more you got to find a place for it. You got to store it. You got to clean it. You got to, and so it takes. So if relationships are the essence, right, of I think what really satisfy us is deep, good, longing relationship, knowing people, knowing our spouse or boyfriend, girl, and just getting together and sharing and being the people I think we were created to be. That if we have more stuff that we have to manage, take care of, look after, it just takes us further away from having the time to just unravel and just be,
right.
My wife and I had to make a lot of decisions over the summer to back away from more external commitments, not just, I'm talking about outside the business, good things, being a part of this or that or something else, just because every time we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. And we realized we were saying no to, hey, I don't get enough time with you. I would like more time to do that, to be with one of our daughters, both of our daughters. And so I just think it's so hard for all of us, because there's a lot of good things we can do with our time, but it's just finding that knowing what should come first and making sure we're doing all those things, and that, more prioritizing, relationships over things,
Yeah, and enjoying your family and putting the right people in place to allow you to do that. I know the trajectory of, and we're probably about the same age, the trajectory of my work and what I've been able to do is because of the people that I've employed here that have been with me for a decade, 2 decades,
Sure.
And it's beautiful to know, like you met Cindy, I mean, to have somebody like that just, that they're going to take care, no different than the restaurant business, that they're going to go and they're going to take care of the person that's sitting down and, wanting a meal and wants to enjoy their night out. Same with the client and, kind of pushing those values forward, which is really nice.
Well, when I heard you say you have 400, you insure 400 restaurants, right? You couldn't do that if you were Superman on your own, right? And so it clearly says you've got the people around you that understand what it's about and understand your mission and how you've already served us in that relationship and that process, right? And so, none of if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together, Yes. And so it's really, and then understanding what our unique abilities are, and then staying out of those things that aren't, and finding those folks around us to come in and say, hey, I'm not really good at this, and I don't really like it, but this person loves that stuff. And so, finding the right people is always probably the most difficult thing that we do. But when we do it, you have that type of impact like that you're able to have on us as our business. And what you've described is when you walk into Spinatos, it's the same thing. It's why we say we're in the people business, and it's critical. You gotta,
darn well that it's hard sometimes to walk away from some of that stuff that when you were a younger business owner, you're like, I got to do all this. I got to, it's like, it's hard to let go. But once you're able to, and you have those right people in place, you're not having to do a lot of those things that you may not enjoy, which gives you more joy to do the things that you do and grow your business in the sense of, just more happiness.
That's true. You're probably in a similar scenario. You've been doing this long enough. It's a family business, and there's I call it like it's as much of a strength as it's a weakness when you know too much about all the facets of your business, where you can just jump in and do this and do that. Sometimes you're just getting in somebody else's way. Sometimes you're just getting involved in something that you shouldn't be doing anyway.
Yep.
You should be over here, right, focused on strategy, culture, vision, the things that we're here to do and build a company. And I'm helping, I'm coaching a few of our team members that have been involved in the growth of our business, and I tell them, the thing is too much.
Right.
And that's great, but it's also putting you in, you're jumping in things, and you need to think like you just started here 2 months ago, and have your team do these things rather than you doing them for them.
You're creating double the work, and you're unempowering the people you put in power.
Yeah,
for sure. I talk to you all day, but what I do want to get into before I hit you with some random questions here are, what is your, as an entrepreneur or business owner, I understand that not every day is the same, but what are some of your routines? What are some of the things, your non-negotiables that you do every day that you like to do before you're, going to the office or going to the different locations?
Yeah. So, coffee with my wife in the morning, early morning when the kids are still sleeping is a number one. Like, it's a fave. Nice. Where that's our time. We get out, we get over to the gym a couple days a week and just get to do that together. And non-negotiable for me is driving my kids both my daughters to school every day.
How old are they?
Almost 13 and 10.
I remember those years.
And I look at it. It's kind of the little things. I get 20 minutes with them in the morning. And it's 160 hours a year. Or I think it's 60 hours a year is what I said when I added it up. We spend some time. We're listening to Taylor Swift every morning, but we do a word of the day, and it's just the little things that I'm getting them to, like, okay, what is it you want to be today? Like, think about how you want to be in this world. What does that look like as a classmate, as a student, right? As a friend, and so those are important to me, and it helps kind of set the tone for the day. And then as I drop them off, I'm doing the same thing on the way to the office, is thinking about how I can be that light and show me who I can serve, right? And just being there for people. And then how it is when you hit the door, boom, there you go. You don't know what's coming at you. And but I mean, it's about being more consistent and being planned. And I plan 90 days at a time. And just go through. I put all the personal stuff in there, and I think as business owners, we always work a lot of hours, but we get to choose when and how we work. Right. And so I always put those personal things, the things with my wife, the kids, the family in, and then just weave my schedule around that. If I got to work till 10:30 at night one night so I can be at my kid's concert in the morning, or so to me it's just planning and making sure I get a little time with Jamie, my wife, and little time with the Lord, and just kind of go from there.
I love it. That's great. Diddy loves that answer.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Well, awesome. This has been great. There's so much more we can talk about. But I want to get into some rapid fire questions for you. See what you think here. All right, hybrid or a muscle car?
Well, I'm not very mechanically inclined, so I wouldn't know how to fix the muscle car, but I would much lean more towards the muscle car, like a big bad boy, like something old with a convertible and just roll around, and but if it broke, I wouldn't know how to change the carburetor.
I'm right there with you. Oh my God, we're like twins in that aspect. That's funny. And it's so funny that you had said Taylor Swift, because my next question is Taylor Swift or Elton John.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. So a friend of ours got us tickets to the Taylor Swift show here. So I took the girls and my wife, and didn't know much about her, other than who she was and a couple of her songs. I saw the show. It was the best show. Now, not the best concert, because I'm a different music guy, but it was the best thing I've ever visually seen in my entire life. And I can tell you, I know about 50 Taylor Swift songs right now, so I guess you can call me a Swiftie. So I'm just gonna lean in that direction, even though I love Elton John, and say I am a Swiftie.
Okay. Hey, fair enough, man. I didn't have this question on here, but I am gonna up our man card a little bit here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see how deep that you can get. So, Rat or Winger?
Rat.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
What's your favorite album?
Let's see, Round and Round, which was that was out of the cellar. Yeah.
It's a great record.
And I like the one after that with Way Cool Jr.
Invasion of Privacy.
Yep. Yeah. Invasion of Privacy. That was
Yeah.
the second fave, but
That's great.
yeah.
Loch Ness Monster or Aliens?
Aliens.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. I have an alien thing here. It's so funny you brought up coffee too. Like I must just know you intuitively. So Americano or espresso?
Espresso. Yeah.
Yeah. I figured you'd say
Absolutely.
that. Would you rather go to a sports game or a concert?
I mean, if I get to choose the concert, definitely a concert.
Okay.
I love just what music does to her. Just, yeah.
Yeah, isn't it great?
Oh,
Just
yeah.
gives you that vibe.
Rips you,
Yeah.
you come back the next day, you got no voice, and you feel like you're alive,
What's the last rock show you went to?
What was it? Was it Guns N' Roses?
I went to that one. They're coming back in October.
Yeah. Probably Guns N' Roses. I haven't been to. I've been to not as many as you, but just with the kiddos, just haven't gone as much. But I think Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good show. Extra cheese or extra veggies?
Extra cheese.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bench press or squats?
Well, I know stronger legs are going to do me better at this stage of my life.
Right.
Since I'm married and I don't have to impress that way anymore. I just got to have a stronger base than upper body.
I love how people think about these questions and just how ridiculous they are. This is awesome. Swim with dolphins or skydive?
I never skydive, so there's just about anything else but that. So swim with dolphins, yeah.
Gardening or golfing?
Oh.
I told you I did my research.
Golf, I love in such a way, but I get to do it so infrequently that we do have 3 gardens. We just added a couple garden beds.
Yeah.
And I mow my own grass. So to me, there's just, I don't know if it's the Italian in me where I like the hedges and just everything dialed in, right? It's just that to me is fulfilling because I can do it weekly, or daily,
Great.
Yeah.
You can pull your harvest.
Yeah.
I got sweet potatoes coming.
Oh, yeah.
I'll send you some garden pictures.
Nice.
All right, so gardening it is for you. And then acoustic or electric?
Wow. If it's me playing,
You playing.
Acoustic for sure. Yeah, because I don't have the skills, but I would never not want to be able to hear Eddie Van Halen. So when I think of electric, I think of him and Slash, right?
Yeah.
Just ripping a guitar. So, but if it's my lame playing skills, I'd have to stick on the acoustic.
Would you? So for me, guitar is a huge part of my life in the essence that I'm not really good, but I love it. And so I have a non-negotiable every week as an entrepreneur. Like you said, we can set our schedules accordingly. So every Thursday at 3:30, I go take a half-hour electric guitar lesson, and I've been doing it for 3 years straight. And I've just, it's again, going back to what you said earlier, it's about compounding interest. And now I'm finding myself doing stuff where I'm like, whoa, this is cool. My finger's moving away. And I pick up the acoustic and I sing to my wife and just have some fun like that. Do you feel when you do it, it's almost like a meditation or a spiritual sort of,
Absolutely. I think, especially the way music, I think, feeds us, and it's a way, and sometimes, you just allows you to, you had a rough day, you can hit those strings a little bit harder or real hard and just, play things that kind of outpour what's going on inside, and if it's just kind of, you're feeling good and peaceful, usually I'm plucking, so,
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, before we leave, favorite Van Halen record?
Are we talking including Sammy Hagar?
Any of them.
Man.
It's a lot of pressure. People want to know.
Maybe Van Halen 2, but 84 is good, and I'm a fan of. I mean, I loved Van Halen with Sammy. It's so hard. Different band, but I'd say 1984, because just where I was at. I mean, I was 9.
Yes,
right. You
same
know,
here.
it's just like when you heard that music, and you know, you hear "Hot for Teacher."
Yes.
You know, when you're
And you were a kid watching that video at 9, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like, and then Eddie just shredding away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what, you know, the music is the music, but when you have that, like, right, they say when you add an experience to an emotion to an experience,
Yes.
it becomes a forever memory in your brain, right?
sure.
And so I that's MTV, that's Panama, you know, when they're flying across the stage and the big kick with David
Yeah.
Lee Roth, and you think, man, that's I mean, you did it. I mean, you win in the industry, but when I saw that, you know, and it was like that Motley Crue, I was like, I want to be a rock star.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like when my mom and aunt and my nonna would take me clothes shopping for Christmas, or not for Christmas, for school, I would be literally looking for rock star type clothes. I remember when Nikki Sixx had the Theater of Pain. Remember the stripes
Oh, yeah.
and then the polka dots.
Yep.
I was just like, I just want polka dots and I want stripes, you know. And they're like, what? Where are we gonna find that? I'm like, I don't know. We're at, I think it was Diamonds back then, or Dillard, you know, which became
Yeah,
Dillard's or
right.
whatever, you know, and Robinson's May and all those Broadway at
Yeah,
Los Arcos,
you
right?
wanna be cool.
I'm looking for literally stuff that would make me look like a rock star at 9 years old, and I was that focused on like growing up and being a rock star because of those guys. And Van Halen, you know, for many reasons, right? You look at them and you're just like, those guys. did it.
1984 was great. Great.
Is that
year,
it for you
great.
too? Is it?
Yeah, I think that's my favorite Van Halen. But God, I love 5150. You know, it's just such a great, you know, freshman, you know, initial
Yeah.
like, Sammy. You're just like, you never heard anything like it.
Yeah.
And then when you really dissect and get into the guitar stuff, yeah, it's just great. So what's funny is I have Gio. You know Gio, Chef Gio. I have him on my podcast next week.
Okay.
Biggest Van Halen fan, like,
Oh, really?
known to man. He
Okay.
like, claims he's bigger than I am, so you know, we'll battle that out.
There you go.
Okay, so Spinatos, where can people find you? Obviously, you do everything, as you had mentioned before, from, you know, weddings to catering to funerals to
Yeah.
parties to you name it. But what information would you like people to know?
I mean, you know, the website is just, you know, simple, Spinatos Pizza or pizzeria.com, either or. And our marketing team, you can catch us on Instagram.
Yeah.
And we have six restaurants, full service restaurants in the Valley, and then we're down at the Footprint Center.
Yep.
Serving fresh pizza. You know, we were talking when we first got in here. I mean, that whole thing it's not a concession pizza. It is a fresh restaurant-made pizza to pretty much right when you need it. It's coming out of the oven. So we call it's a 7th location. We treat it like a restaurant because we do it. So 7 locations, and you know, between Ahwatukee, Gilbert, Phoenix, Scottsdale. And I'm leaving one out, Tempe, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're pretty spread out. And those of your listeners on the podcast that are in the West Valley, I know why you're still mad at us. We're not in the West Valley, and we get it. And I promise you, on air, our next location is coming west, maybe the next 2 or 3. So
Excellent.
I got to get that out because we get a lot. That's
of
our
people,
biggest
yeah.
complaint.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds great. It doesn't sound like anything is slowing down, but it's growing smartly and, you know, basically relationship-wise, as we talked about. So that's exciting. And I'll put all the locations, everything in show notes. And, yeah, your marketing team's great, so we'll get this out there.
Right on.
So,
Well,
yeah, thank you for today.
thanks for having me. You know, we got to off air figure out some time to jam, huh?
I would love it. Yeah. Or grab coffee and
Yeah,
jam. So,
yeah.
yeah, we'll do that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Again, really appreciate it. Please subscribe and give it a 5-star. And podcast is sponsored by myself, Bar and Restaurant Insurance. So that's always good, right? And also in the show notes, I'll put the mastermind that I'm doing with Jeremy Scott. You know, we've got a great mastermind going on for 10 people that want to be a part of a group that can help them with, you know, resources and finding their passion and all sorts of stuff like that, because I just love doing it. So anyways, till next time, have a good one. Peace out.